How's everyone doing tonight? This is Coach Dan with What's Your Next, brought to you by DB Fitness LLC. I'd like to take a special thank you to Johnny with Exit 48 Studios here live in New Braunfels, Texas. And those of you that had a chance to watch my first episode, thank you for watching. Thank you for all the followers and listeners out there. So tonight's really special because episode 1 was all about me, right? It was all about Coach Dan. And for me, it was hard because really I'm just talking to myself. I didn't have anyone to interview, anyone to put a weight belt on or chalk up or spot up or whatever. Sling some iron around, I like to call it, right? So now it's a milestone. One, because it's episode 2 and I have my first guest. So my first guest tonight, his name is Nick Torres, and you guys will get to know him really well in a few minutes here. But again, we're looking for milestones, right? So those of you watching, subscribe, click the like button, whatever you have to do, spread the word, because this podcast, I have a lineup of people coming in and a lot of special characters that you don't want to miss out. So that said, I'm going to dive right into this. So again, this is Coach Dan with What's Your Next? And I got Nick Torres. So Nick Torres, before I get into talking to you here, one thing is I love baseball. You're probably wondering why I'm wearing the Padres jersey. I love the San Diego Padres. Go Padres. They're doing pretty well this year. They got a good special team. And so go Padres. I know everyone's dream is, I know when I was a kid and I was a child, I always, I was playing Little League and Big League, Farm League, whatever you want to call it, back there in Scranton, Pennsylvania, right? I'm a coal cracker. That's right, Northeast PA. So when I was there playing baseball, my dream was always to be a professional baseball player. That was my dream. I wanted to play pro ball, maybe make the majors someday. So that said, we got a professional baseball player on our set. And me and Nick, we've grown to be buddies. So not only is he one of my clients, but he's a special friend. And more importantly, he's a part of the DB Fitness family. So knuckles there, Nick.
That's right.
So again, Nick Torres, thank you for being on the set tonight. We're always setting records. If it's on the baseball diamond or if it's in the weight room, picking a lot of heavy shit off the ground, right?
Yep.
A lot of heavy weight. So that said, Nick, let's take you back. I want you to paint a picture of your childhood. Like, first of all, where did you grow up? Your parents, any siblings out there? Tell us about Nick Torres.
Yeah, so my dad's name is Art. My mom's name is Tracy. I got a brother named Mitchell, younger, bigger brother.
All right.
Growing up, everybody was always saying you need to watch out the way that you treat him because he's going to be way bigger than you. He's going to beat you up when you get older. He's definitely is much bigger than me. I'm from Lakewood, California. Went to Lakewood High School. Big sports area. Like if you're driving through Lakewood, what you see up on the banners, in every town, they kind of got their slogan up there. Lakewood is Lakewood Sports Town. So it's huge. Everybody there, sports, especially youth sports, is really big.
Could I ask you something in a minute?
Yeah, of course.
It's probably Dodger Town there, right?
You're not. Yeah.
Probably Dodger Town, USA, right?
Yep, that's
so
right.
So don't throw nothing at me now wearing the Padres jersey,
No,
but we'll get into where you played earlier.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah, so growing up, I played mostly baseball. I played soccer, tried my hand at football a little bit my freshman year of high school, but mainly baseball for me. It was huge. Our whole environment was baseball centered. Our high school games, there'd be 2,000-3,000 people at the game sometimes. We're playing at the local college. It was a blast.
That's awesome. So you told me where you grew up, Dodgertown, USA there. I mean, I have to say that. You're right there, right?
Yeah.
And you told us about your background, your sibling. I did see a picture of your brother. He's a pretty husky guy. So those of you that play football out there, he looks like he could block or maybe pass block or make some tackles. So now tell us about like Little League, right? Because I know when I played Little League, I'm not a big guy at all. I'm trying to think back in Scranton, my little league team. I remember now. It's called Ford's Trucking. I played second base and I did a lot of pitching. So those of you, there was a Red Sox pitcher years ago, the knuckleballer. What was his name? Wakefield, yeah. So I was like the Tim Wakefield in Scranton, PA in Little League with Ford's Trucking. I think I pitched like every other game. I wasn't a fast pitcher, but look out, I could throw a knuckleball, but some did hit home runs off me. So tell me about Little League then. So you got into Little League. Obviously, you love baseball. You had a lot of influence from your dad, your brother, your family. So now Little League, you start playing. Was there any other sports other than baseball? I know you kind of touched on that. And then I want you to answer the question of what did Little League do for you to make you realize that, this is something I like to do, or was there something else out there?
Yeah, so like you'd said, my dad played soccer at Sac State. So I did play soccer as well. I grew up playing soccer and baseball. I would go baseball in the summer, soccer right after that. And I would switch back and forth. And Little League for me was more so just dipping my toes in the water. My dad, I remember him telling me later on, like, you weren't all that good when you were first playing, but it was all for me about just making sure you were doing something that you really enjoyed. But yeah, that's kind of the time where my love for the game really was sparked.
Excellent. And what did you play back then? Was it the same position you are today, or did you kind of move around a little bit?
Like a lot of the guys that end up moving up through high school, college and stuff. I was a middle infielder growing up, and then of course as I started to get bigger, a little less mobile, I got shifted to third, and then eventually to the outfield in high school.
That's awesome. Well, definitely from when I first saw you a few years ago to now, you definitely put some size on, so you must have a good strength coach.
True that.
But so we get through Little League. You got familiar with the game. You like soccer, which is good for you soccer fans out there. I love soccer. I have 3 little princesses, what I call it, 3 little girls. They're all into basketball, but my little one, Zoe, look out. She's a future soccer star. And then my son, Danny, look out. He's always doing something. If he's not writing books, he's swimming. He's doing something out there. He's conquering his goals, which is important because in What's Your Next, it's not about what you're doing in the past, what you're doing now. It's about what you're doing next. So let's talk about what's your next. So we went from Little League. What's your next from there? You're going to high school, right? So tell me about your high school baseball career. What did that look like?
Okay, so like I was saying, our area is huge with youth sports. And so by the time you're going to high school, all the high school coaches already know what players are coming from, like the Pony League and going to what high schools, who's going to be the guys to watch, all that stuff. So my freshman year, I go in, and I was supposed to be one of the guys that was pretty good coming from the youth leagues. And I broke my leg right before freshman year. Like you saw, I don't know if you watched the UFC fights from this last week, but there was a pretty nasty one.
I watched it.
My leg looked like that.
Wow. For you UFC fans out there, if you haven't watched the video from last week's fight, I'm a diehard, avid UFC fan. So, Nick, just that you just said UFC on the studio is awesome. Yeah. So, but that video, please download, go to YouTube, watch the UFC with that guy you're talking about, that fighter.
Advised.
Yes. So go ahead. So you had a nasty injury.
Injury. So I missed most of my freshman year. I remember my dad picking me up from the park where I did it right around the corner from my house and just being so pissed at me. Like, dude, you're gonna go play this season and you just did this. So I recovered from that. My sophomore year, I was on junior varsity, just playing baseball at this point. And I'm playing pretty much on one leg. The leg I broke is fine, but I'm really heavily limping, can't put any pressure on my other foot. Come to find out, I played the whole season like that. I was our JV MVP, pitched all the games that I could, played shortstop. Come to find out, I had a stress fracture in my right foot.
You know what that's called? That's called grit. It's called grit there. So go ahead.
I took a lot of pride in that as a kid, like, hey, I'm hurting, but if, it's very obvious that I'm going through something right here, but I'm just going to go out and grind as much as I can.
That's excellent. So those of you watching too and listening out there, obviously YouTube, right? Spotify, iTunes, just Google Coach Dan. You'll find me somewhere on the internet. But so those of you listening right now, listen to what Nick's talking about. He had an injury he had to overcome. I'm all about overcoming stresses in our life or traumatic events, challenges. That's a freaking challenge because most guys that I know that go and play professional baseball, they play like 4 outstanding years. I mean, look at football and NFL guys. Most of them are standouts all 4 years. So you were kind of like behind the 8 ball, but you had a lot of grit. You were scrappy. You got after it. So now we're going into your junior year of high school. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so you kind of hit on it right there, is that, you know, in the youth leagues, I was one of the better players, and I felt like all of a sudden with these injuries, I was being passed up.
Absolutely.
And, you know, looking at it from my perspective, I'm like, man, I'm better than all these guys. I know it. I just need to get an opportunity. I need to get healthy. I need to get an opportunity. So I came back my junior year. I mean, barely made the varsity team. I didn't play at all. Was a pitcher only. I mean, I threw maybe 20 innings my junior year. I was a nobody. You know, still coming back from the injuries and stuff. And then we're going into senior year. I spent like 6-7 months on crutches my junior year, and they're just letting the pitchers hit, and I'm cranking balls. And so we start that summer going into my senior year, like, or the winter ball, whatever it would be called, and I'm hitting 7th. By the time season started my senior year, I was our set 3-hole hitter.
That is outstanding. So 7th in the lineup, down to just 3-hole hitter. I mean, your top 4 in the lineup make stuff happen.
Yeah.
So that's outstanding. So you've overcome a lot of obstacles already. And I love that because, you know, I spoke in my first episode about like my dad. My grandfather was a World War II hero. He was captured by the Germans several times and he got away. So when the door of opportunity opens in life, you got to jump on that door. So right now, that door of opportunity is open for you, right? You were a pitcher. You were kind of trying to figure out where you were at as far as a baseball player. So now we go into you're successful, you're 3 in the lineup. So now take me to that senior year, because I know no one goes and plays college baseball unless they have somewhat of a spectacular season. So tell us about your senior year of high school.
Yeah, so, you know, senior year was a big one for me. And I know we had talked before. There was a moment that I had with a guy that was a year older than me who was signed to Long Beach State, which is where I wanted to go to school. We played most of our home games at Long Beach State in front of huge crowds in high school. It was awesome. And I went up to him. This is at the time when I had almost no playing time as a junior. He was the MVP of the league the year before, and I said, hey, I'm going to take that from you next year.
Excellent. I love it.
With no credibility at the time. But you know what, I can say this very confidently that, I mean, there's maybe a handful of kids in the whole area that put in as much work as I did. You know, I was getting home from school every day, and I was like, Dad, let's go to the park. I was lucky. I was in a great neighborhood. We had a park right around the corner from our house. But every day I'm getting home, hey, let's go take some swings. Let's go play some catch. Let's work on stuff. And, you know, I finally got that window of opportunity and just happened to seize it. I had an awesome senior year, did exactly what I went out to accomplish. Split the MVP that year with another dude from one of our rival high schools. But, yeah, just got got lucky as well. I had a guy that I was playing with on another team, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Sure.
They came down to watch him play, happened to see me play, and, man, it just takes one person to like what you bring to the field, what you bring to the team, and that's it. It's game over.
So you overcame obstacles. We talked about your freshman year. I mean, nasty injury. Check out that UFC video from last week, too. And then your sophomore year, finally, you really didn't blossom till junior, halfway through your junior year. And then you had an outstanding high school season. And because of that outstanding high school season, I mean, your dream then is probably to play college baseball somewhere, right? So let's walk us through paint that great picture, I like to say, of what it was like from signing day, because I'm sure you had a signing day in high school. Could you talk about that signing day and how important that was for you and your family?
So it's funny that you say that. So I blossomed so late, I never got that. I didn't sign until April of my senior year. All the hype for the guys that were studs, all that stuff had already happened. I already told, even with the year that I was having, I'd already told the junior college coach nearby. I was like, hey, I'll be here next year, a little too late for me.
Yeah.
And, just very late my senior year is when that came. But, man, the feeling of all of this has paid off. Because at that point, I wasn't thinking pro ball or anything. I was just, let me just get to college. I want to play Division I baseball. My high school coaches and a lot of people that had invested in me were like, yeah, you should go the JUCO route or you should go D3. I think that's more of a fit for you.
So, Nick, you're in college right now, right? Going to college. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so my freshman year was, I show up on campus and I'm the smallest guy in my class of guys that come in. Everybody else that had come in my grade were all the dudes at their high school.
Yes.
And so now I'm trying to find my place on this team, trying to figure out where it is that I fit in. I'm trying to learn from the upperclassmen and all that stuff. And so my freshman year was a huge kick in the teeth. It was a big learning experience for me, but that's kind of where I fell in love with the weight room. The work I found out to be the big separator there. The guys that put in the extra work, because now, my job was basically to go to school and to go and perform on the baseball field. And so it was really clear to see who were the guys that were putting the time in to separate themselves.
And you put a lot of time in the weight room, huh?
A lot of time.
So I will add in this for my football fans out there, or baseball, whatever sport. I mean, what you put into things in life is what you get out of it. I mean, you practice the way you play, right? So like Nick Saban always talks about his great football teams. His strength coach is his most important coach on staff. They're all important, but the strength coach, I mean, they're never interviewing strength coaches, right? They're not going to interview the head. They always interview the head coach, offense, defensive coordinators at times, but really it's the head coach answering questions. So a strength coach is behind the scenes, sweating, grinding, working out to try to get ready for the next season. And that work in the weight room carries out to the baseball diamond, and obviously the attitude, the football field. So whatever sport that is, whatever you put in the weight room, you want that attitude as a head coach to carry over into whatever sport you're at.
Yes. I mean, college baseball coaches will be the first to say, and I can speak from experience.
Yes, go ahead.
Man, weight room can be such a huge advantage. If you come into college prepared, for the young athletes that are watching this, like, get in the weight room. That is the biggest separator coming in day one to get yourself ready for that next level.
So tell me about your sophomore year and junior year. How was that?
So sophomore year, we had a great season. We had lost some of our upperclassmen. It was the first year where I had to really step up and be one of the leaders on the team. We made a regional. We went to the UCLA regional. So UCLA regional, we're playing against UCLA the second game of the tournament. And, I mean, if we beat them, we are one game away from going to a super regional. And I'll never forget, we're beating them up. It's 4-0. Our pitcher's rolling. We're in like the sixth inning. And we get a 2 outs, bases loaded, fly ball to me and right.
Okay.
I lose the ball in dusk. Ball drops, all 3 runs score.
Please tell me you're going to win the game. All right, go ahead.
Keep going. I wish I could. So they end up tying the game that inning. They win it a couple innings later. And it was the first time in my career to this point I had never faced anything like this. A failure like this that was so big. So
let me ask you something. Take us through, like, how did you recover from that mentally? Because I'm a big physical guy, right? You could put the work in all you want in the weight room, but if you're mentally, I talk about the mind-body connection a lot with my athletes. So you really had to dig yourself out of a hole mentally, because from what you're telling me is you kind of lost the ball in the lights. Is that what happened?
Yep, exactly.
So take us from there. You lost the ball. I mean, you talk about work ethic. What did that off season look like after that?
Yeah, it was a huge motivator for me, and it showed me, man, there's just some things that happen that are out of our control. I did the best I could, but now my goal is to get back to that same level and to excel this time.
Well, yeah, you had kind of like a chip on your shoulder, something to prove, right?
Dan, you just said it. And there's plenty of stories I could talk about, but that's the way that I played through my whole career. Like I had something to prove. I always played with a chip on my shoulder.
And I mean, just from when we first started chatting about your upbringing with your family, which I love, I mean, there's a lot of grit and just like comeback after comeback stories with you. You just kept conquering, and that's what this show's about. What's your next, right? So tell me now about what's your next. Did you end up getting drafted, or that next season, like your junior season? Did you go senior year? Did you graduate?
So my junior year of college is when I started getting contacted by a bunch of professional teams, and it was the first time where I was like, wow, I can actually become a professional baseball player. I've been doubted my whole career. If you don't mind, I'll tell you a little story about my high
Please
school.
Please do.
I remember, I'll never forget this. My high school coach one time, this is my junior year when I was a nobody, right?
Okay.
He pulls me in to bring the balls in. He's throwing BP. And completely unwarranted, he pulls his glasses off. And he ran our high school like a dictatorship. And he's like, you know what, Nick? Do you have a competitive bone in your body?
Wow.
It hits me with that.
So this must just drive you even till today.
This is the stuff that, as I'm getting close to breaking through to that professional level, was my main motivators.
That's insane. You know, I have many stories myself, but it only takes 1, 2, maybe 3 little indicators, right, to ignite that flame. You know, Michael Jordan, right?
We talk a lot about it.
Yeah, Michael Jordan talks about it's the shots he missed, which he ended up winning his 6 NBA championships. He was undefeated in the finals. And, wow, you're playing with a chip on your shoulder, man. And I'm so damn proud of you, Nick.
Thank you.
So you're at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, did you you start to realize, like, wow, I may be I may get drafted.
Yeah.
Right? Did you end up getting drafted?
Yeah, so I get drafted by the Padres after my junior year in the 4th round. Yeah, I know. We came full circle. That's right.
All right.
Yeah, so I get drafted by the Padres in the 4th round. Most unbelievable feeling. You know, when I had coaches telling me in high school, yeah, you should go D3, you should go JUCO, and I just felt like nobody believed in me except for me and my family and the people that were in my corner. Other than that, I felt like I was trying to prove everybody wrong.
Well, tell us about your San Diego Padre draft, your experience. Like, where did you go from there? Because I know a lot of our listeners and viewers, they just think that when you're drafted that you're like right in a Padre uniform.
Right,
like,
know.
Where did you go? Like low A, double A, triple A? Where did you end up going?
Yeah, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah.
No, I played short season, which is basically just to kind of get a taste of the pro ball, experience. My first full season, I played in Fort Wayne, Indiana for the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. Had a great year there. I was an all-star there. I left halfway through the year. I got moved up. Was named one of the postseason all-stars for low A that year. And then I went up to Lake Elsinore. I got called up to the Storm.
Wow, Lake Elsinore Storm.
Yeah.
So I used to live in Lake Elsinore.
So I've heard.
Nick and I probably walked past each other a half dozen times, but we weren't friends then.
Yeah.
I knew a Nick. I watched him, and all I thought at the time was, this guy's going to be a really good future baseball player. And you tore it up in the Lake Elsinore Storm. Lake Elsinore, California, great place. Someday I may end up retiring out there. They just do it right. And so tell me about your Lake Elsinore Storm experience.
It was an awesome experience. That was the first time that I was playing close to home. Growing up in Southern California, I was an hour and a half away from where I grew up. So I had lots of visitors that would come and watch me play and stuff, which was really cool. Getting to play, it felt like a hometown games every time we were home.
I know, because, you're a California boy. You're playing for the Lake Elsinore Storm. You're drafted by the San Diego Padres. That area is a great area, not only to live in, but for baseball.
Yeah.
And so you play well in Lake Elsinore, which is great. So did you end up playing a few seasons? Did you make the All-Star? Like, where did you end up going after Lake Elsinore?
So I finished out that year, was named, internally, I was our Padres minor league player of the year that year.
Wow.
Went to the Arizona Fall League, which is the big prospect league for Major League Baseball. Got to play there. Probably a little aggressive for me. I might not have been all the way ready for it, but I was stoked to have the opportunity at the time. 2016, my second full season, I go to Double A San Antonio here playing for the Missions.
Wow, San Antonio Missions.
Yep.
So we're out here in New Braunfels, Texas, little small Texas town, I like to call it. Mm-hmm. Love Texas, by the way. So Mission Stadium, very pro-military area there. So that's awesome that you played for the Mission. So tell us about the not Lake Elsinore Storm. See, you got me so excited.
I know,
Actually,
I got you fired up.
You got me so excited about the Lake Elsinore Storm. So we're going to hold a second and hit the pause button. But I have a picture here. So I threw out the first pitch for the Lake Elsinore Storm twice.
Look at that.
Look at that. Take a look at that.
That's sweet.
Yep. So
yeah, that was the year I was there.
Yeah, so you were out there. So like I said earlier, there's the pictures there. I threw out the first pitch on my birthday for back-to-back years, and Nick was playing while I was there. So while he's on the field, I'm throwing out the first pitch. It's funny how life goes sometimes.
Here we are.
So enough with Lake Elsinore, because I could talk forever about the storm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the missions right now. So San Antonio missions, tell us about, were you successful with the missions?
Yeah, so second full season, right? I got one All-Star game under my belt. I made the All-Star team that year as well. There's a lot of superstars in the big leagues right now that I was playing alongside in that dugout in that All-Star game. Got called up to AAA, after a really successful year in San Antonio, and finished out 2016 with the El Paso Chihuahuas.
So tell us about the AAA team, because the Padres minor league system is great. They're great at developing players. So I know they have a successful AAA team. Mm-hmm. I assume when you were there, they were good.
Yeah, we ended up winning the national championship for AAA that year. It was, man, that team was nasty.
You must have tore it up.
Yeah.
So you won the national championship for the Padres AAA club. So tell me, what happens then? What happens after AAA? Did you move around? Where did you go from there?
So the next year, after doing great in AAA, I had an awesome experience there. Played very well to finish out, a great 2016 season. Going to 2017, and about a week before spring training, they say, "Hey, you're going back to AA."
Okay.
And I remember being so salty about that. Having perspective now, looking back, I wish I would have just taken it as, okay, cool. I'll go rake and prove myself for a couple weeks, and I'll be back up in AAA in no time.
So another little setback.
Yeah.
Little setback, little grit, little salty, right?
Yeah.
But that's what makes us grow.
Sure.
Kind of watering the grass a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Which we had a lot of grass to water so far in our conversation here. A lot of grass growing. What I want to hear about is, how is spring training, man? Because I heard spring training with the Padres is so cool. Tell me a little bit about that.
From the player's perspective, it is a grind. Man, you were at the facility at 5 a.m. There was days where I'm there at 5, and then we're not leaving until 6:30. You go home, you eat some food, you fall asleep, you wake up, you do it all again.
So no one's ever given nothing. You're working out there.
You are working out there in spring training, yes.
So what was your favorite game, how you felt, experience, maybe meeting someone kind of cool to hang out with? What was really cool about spring training? So for the rest of your life, when you look back at your experience with the Padres and spring training, what's like 3 takes from it?
So, for one, there was a couple times where I got to go up to the big league games, which was awesome.
Okay.
You're in a big league uniform stadium with all the big leaguer dudes and stuff, and that's cool. What's really cool is in spring training, you have a ton of like the special assistants, like a Trevor Hoffman is around all the time, and we were buddies when I was there. There's
good old Trevor time, huh?
Tons of big names. You're around a bunch of dudes that really know the game well, and they want to see these young players excel. So
that is awesome. And you mentioned about Trevor Hoffman. We talked about him earlier, but you talk about a class act guy.
100%.
I always saw him. In fact, you saw him a lot, but he's always in the farm system, moving around. I mean, he would drive up to Lake Elsinore Storm all the time to scout you guys. I remember, I met Trevor a couple times and at Lake Elsinore Stadium. And you want to talk about a class act guy that really cares about the development of his players. That's outstanding. So now we move on from there, and I see you wearing, Mexico shirt here, a Mexican team, and tell me about this. What's going on here?
Yeah, so I'll briefly touch back on 17. I had a okay year 17.
Okay.
Not enough to, I guess, turn heads.
Okay.
I got released 2018 spring training.
Okay.
And I'm half Mexican. I started getting contacted by a bunch of teams from Mexico. Wasn't really the right move at the time.
Go Mexico.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I played independent ball for a couple months, got signed by the Rangers, finished out 2018 with the Rangers here in Round Rock.
Now, Padres right into another great organization, the Texas Rangers.
No doubt.
So tell me what happened in Round Rock and, from there.
Round Rock, I only was with them for the last month and a half of the season and had the worst month and a half of my entire career. I remember walking off that field being like, man, am I going to play again? Where's my next opportunity going to come? I don't know if I'll get signed. And that's where Mexico comes in. So You know, it was kind of the right time. I was like, all right, I've played with 2 different affiliates now. I'm not sure if I'm going to be playing with a third. And I took up one of the Tijuana Toros called me and they said, hey, we want to sign you to come down here, play professionally for us. It's basically the Mexican big leagues.
So Nick, you talk about a lot of great things tonight. I mean, your grit and your drive is amazing. Like, you're never quitting. You're going, and going. Again, you're getting knocked down, coming back up on your own 2 feet. That's the most important thing I could tell anyone watching again. It's in life to win championships, and to find that greatness, you're not going to get there unless you put in the work and get knocked down a couple times. So you get knocked down, you're in Round Rock, and you end up going to Mexico, which is great. So tell me how you did in Mexico and where you're at today.
First season in Mexico was 2019. I was an all-star there. Hit a bunch of homers, played extremely well. Best year of my career. And granted, it was the Mexican League, but it was, aside from that, I was like, I know that this is the best that I've been so far. And I felt even closer to, man, I still got more in the tank.
And this is like the end of 2019 going into 2020.
Yes.
So this is all pre-COVID, which I'm going to talk about in a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about what got you to New Braunfels, Texas, because I'm blessed to finally become friends. Like, not only a client, and you come to DB Fitness and we work out and throw a lot of iron around, which we'll talk in a minute, but tell me about what brought you here to New Braunfels, and then I'll add in about where we're at right now.
Yeah. So I was actually in spring training 2020, and we got sent home. And, you know, within all that kind of mess, my wife and I were like, what do we do? Do we want to go somewhere else? I got an opportunity by one of our mutual friends to come out here and coach. So I had a job lined up, and we said, hey, screw it, let's do it. So we made the big move.
Yeah, because COVID's going on. Minor league baseball was shut down, right?
Yeah, everything was shut down.
Everything was shut down. We're talking spring training, February, of 2020. That's right when kind of COVID kind of hit. Everything got shut down. So we're talking about what's your next again. We're talking about getting knocked down, grit. Well, we both found some grit, me and you, Nick. So Nick moves to New Braunfels. He starts working here in the area, coaching athletes, training baseball players. And then me and Nick meet through a friend. In fact, a very good friend of mine, another professional Major League Baseball player, told me, you got to meet this Nick Torres guy. And my jaw almost dropped because we talked about Lake Elsinore. Here we go again, right?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, there's Dan's to talk about Lake Elsinore again. So Lake Elsinore, Storm. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Nick Torres is moving here. I'm like, I remember watching him play. He was like a stout athlete. He's someone that needs to come to my gym because I only like training the 1%.
Sure.
The people that freaking get knocked down 1,000 times but keep getting up on their own 2 feet because they don't want to stay down. They don't want to lay on that couch forever. They want to get off that couch and do something. So you and I hit it off, me and Nick. We start working out. Tell me about your first experience meeting Coach Dan and DB Fitness. Tell us about that.
I didn't know what I was getting into. You know, I was a fresh Texan. I had just crushed some Black's barbecue right before the workout.
Oh, Black's barbecue.
Yeah. I ended up tasting it twice that day because I got my butt kicked in that first workout, was throwing up, coming back in, doing the linebacker squats, just half dead.
Did you hear that? Baseball. Who said baseball players can't be strong, right? We put some time in the weight room. I remember that first workout you came in and linebacker squat, right? We weren't doing baseball stretches.
No.
We got right after it.
Yeah,
so linebacker squats, we're doing pyramids. And I remember that
some
day.
Yoke.
Yeah, we did the yoke. You strong men out there,
Yeah.
strongman competitions, throwing some Atlas stones in that yoke. That yoke, I tell you what, that yoke, if you never done the yoke, look it up. Y-O-K-E. If you haven't experienced a strongman yoke, go do it because Nick got a good experience that day. And you ended up throwing up some more barbecue on the side of my gym, but probably a couple times. I remember you taking laps out there, but it was a great workout. But what I remember after that workout, a buddy of mine that brought Nick there, he's like, so what do you think? I said, wow. I said, well, he probably feels like he got punched straight in the jaw. I said, but what I really admire about him is he didn't give up. He went through the whole workout without giving up. And then even though you were pale in the face, looked like you might have threw up again on your way out to the car. I don't know. But you looked like ass. Yeah. And I was worried about you, actually. I told my buddy, I said, will you please watch him when he goes home? You were like white pale.
Yeah.
So, but what I admired is my buddy told me the next day, he's like, Nick will be back. And that's your story, man. It's always about Nick being back.
No doubt.
It's always about Nick Torres running on all cylinders. Nick and I end up training since, COVID's going on. We are grinding. We're definitely putting in a solid 3 days a week. We lift maybe even more in the beginning.
More than that.
And at the start. And we started September of 2020. Not that long ago, less than a year. So you came in. I remember when I first met you. I wish we had a picture. Actually, I do. I'll have to give it to my buddy Johnny here. And Johnny's studio kicks butt, by the way, here. I mean, Exit 48 Studios. I mean, if you guys are watching, listening, look out. You need someone good to work with, hit me up, message me, DM me, because Johnny's the freaking man. Yeah. But anyway, thank you, Johnny, again, for just this awesome atmosphere. But we talk about the grit and working out in the gym, putting in the hard work. Talk to me about when you decided that you enjoyed lifting heavy weights. I mean, you blew up. When we first met, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were like, maybe 202, 207.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Somewhere around there. And now, I mean, you're like, your arm's as big as my head right now. And we have a lot of gold medals to talk about here coming up. But you really became a whole new Nick Torres.
Yeah.
So, and what I mean is a whole new Nick Torres, mentally and physically. So when did you get this idea that you want to do powerlifting?
That's the Danny B effect right there.
The Danny B effect.
If Dan's not in the gym, you're inevitably going to lift less than if he's in there.
It's the Danny B effect.
That's right.
I have so many people that tell me, like, whenever I train with you, Coach Dan, like, I get PRs.
100%.
But then you go somewhere else and you have, like, a bad day. And I can't really explain that other than what you call it, the Danny B effect.
Danny B effect.
So we start powerlifting.
Yeah.
So you and I start working out, and then we start realizing that I remember the first time I maxed you out, you did 275 barely for 2 on the bench. Yep. And then your deadlift, we really didn't crack into your deadlift yet when we started working out in September, but now we're at like really October and we start kind of playing around with deadlifting. And as a coach, I look at Nick deadlifting 405 like nothing. So I look at Nick and I'm like, wow, Nick, you may really want to really invest some time into powerlifting, because no one's going to tell me that there's no strong baseball players out there. I hate when people say that. You're a hell strong baseball player. So we start working out. Take us through the workouts up until recently, and then we'll finish with that.
Yeah, so I mean, we were going 5 days a week, and we were just like, hey, Dan, what should we do today? What should we do today? Like, what is it? What's on the board? And just going after it like that. And then, I remember at one point you're like, hey, do you realize you're about 50 pounds off of a Texas State deadlift record?
Those of you involved with USPA, they run fabulous meets. In fact, Bobby Morgan, Gary Hunter, if you're watching, giving you a shout out now. USPA, they do a great job. Yes. I've been lifting with them for a little bit. Before that, I used to dabble in years ago in episode 1. You heard me talk about the ADFPA, American Drug-Free Powerlifting Association. I'm giving my age away because I think they went out in 1995 and it became USA Powerlifting. But USAPA, they do a great job with their meets. So Nick's deadlifting a house. I tell him, I'm like, hey, Nick, before you go to spring training and play professional baseball, a lot of professional baseball players would probably shy away from lifting 500, 600 pounds off the ground doing deadlifts, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
Who the hell is going to do that before they're playing baseball? Unless you really got some grit and you got some more in the tank, right?
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. There's more in the tank.
You got some more in the tank. So Nick's not done yet. You're probably wondering, these gold medals here. And before I talk about the gold medals, you see my little tumbler, my cup here, my DB Fitness. I love this. Let me tell you what, if you're looking for a good tumbler or a cup, Michelle's Cup and Tumblers out there. She lives over in Seguin. Wonderful woman. I actually trained her son, Robert. And Robert's a great kid. He's a catcher. He's playing college baseball now. Love for you to get some time with Robert.
For sure.
But Robert, has a lot of swagger to him, just like you. He's overcome obstacles, and then he gets the Danny B effect.
That's right.
He thought he was done playing baseball. Now he's playing college baseball. I love that, the Danny B effect.
Yep.
I'm going to have to start using that a little more.
That's right.
So anyway, enough with the tumbler. That's great. Check out Michelle's Cups and Tumblers. But you see these gold medals here? So Nick ends up going in his first ever USPA powerlifting meet up at Patriot Fitness, right? Is that the name of it? I want to make sure I get it right because the owner is outstanding. He supports the military. Anyone that supports our men and women in uniform serving our great nation, God bless them for that. So he put on a great venue, powerlifting meet up there. So that said, Nick wins 2 gold medals. And not only does he win these 2 gold medals, now think about this now. You might be like, oh, that's really cool. Again, professional baseball player. When are you going to training camp?
Saturday.
On my birthday.
Yeah, May 1st.
Yeah, May 1st. He's going to he's off to Mexico to play baseball. And he was supposed to report earlier.
Yes.
But what did you tell them?
I said I was supposed to report like mid-April, and I was like, guys, I have a powerlifting competition actually at the end of April, so I'm gonna have to take a rain check on that. I'll be there later.
If I'm the GM or whoever, that baseball team, and I'm your coach, and other guys are probably down there resting, getting ready for training and possibly an exhibition game this weekend, right? Here you are. I'd be foaming from the mouth. I'd be like, Nick Torres, this is someone I want on my team. Like, if I'm a professional baseball team out there and I'm listening or watching this, if you want someone that's going to get after it and give you 110% and some grit, again, I'm not selling Nick Torres. I'm just telling you, like, this guy here is it. Here he is. He put the time in. He's a professional power lifter now. He's a state champion for the USPA for your weight class. And right now you hold a deadlift record for the state of Texas. And the state of Texas, it's not like Rhode Island. Like, nothing against my Rhode Island friends. Yeah. But, the state of Texas is like its own country.
Sure.
So if you have a state record in anything in Texas and you're able to get on the stage and deadlift and powerlift, bench press, squat, whatever you do, that is awesome. So take us through just last weekend. Take us through last weekend about the ups and downs, about, did you hit any downs that day? What did you learn about powerlifting?
What a story that weekend was. So, briefly kind of how the competitions work is you get your 3 lifts on bench, your 3 on deadlift, right? And we expected to be, by my 3rd lift on bench, way higher than what we opened up at. And I opened up at like 292, expecting to blow it up, did just that. Then we went to the 2nd set and failed it. We went up because we knew I had more. It was just a bad lift on my part. We went up and I failed it.
And let me tell you about Nick going up too, because some of you might be like, oh man, you failed 2 lifts. It's the failure. Nick got knocked down again. What's your next? He got knocked down again. You're probably thinking at that time, like, where's the bus or the aircraft? I'm ready to go to Mexico. I think powerlifting is maybe not a sport for me. I enjoy working out, but maybe I should just stick with baseball. So at that point, you make your first lift. You got yourself in the game. Yeah. Your 2nd lift, you miss. And it's not a lift, just so you guys watching and listening, we put weight on the bar that Nick does for reps. Yeah. So your 2nd attempt, you really shouldn't have missed. But you did. Again, some technique, sure. Right? Your technique was off. And it was your first meet. You had to get the butterflies out in baseball. Yeah. I'm sure you remember your first hit, right? So you just had to get yourself your first lift out of the way. So you got your first lift, missed your 2nd. 3rd lift, you know what I did? Nick didn't miss the weight he just missed on his 2nd lift. So he missed his 2nd lift. I end up putting more weight on for his 3rd lift because I'm like, there's no way you should have missed your 2nd lift. Yeah. We made some corrections. And I'm like, he's going to smoke up this third lift because this is another weight I've seen you do.
Yeah.
But then you did not get your third lift. So he made only one of 3 lifts. He's sitting down in the corner of a packed house. Lots of people at this meet. They ran a great meet, USPA. So you're sitting there in the corner, and I'm looking at Nick because I've been where Nick's at in many areas. Maybe not in professional baseball, but in other areas of life. If it was deployments or wrestling or football or powerlifting. So I've been where Nick's at. It's not cool not to get a lift when everyone's watching you, right? So it's kind of like that Friday night lights, I call it, or that Friday night when you were playing college baseball and you missed that, how it affected you. Nick's sitting there, and I could just tell, Nick, you were just sitting there in the corner. You had your hands crossed, and you're just sitting there, and you're going like this. You're doing the lip movement thing, right? And I'm a facial expression guy, so those of you out there, like, I'm a psycho when it comes to that. I normally tell people I know what they're thinking before they think it just by facial expressions. So I could tell Nick's just thinking like, oh man, like I should get my opener in my deadlift, but maybe not. I mean, maybe not. I mean, you were at a low. So tell me what picked you up out of that low? What happened? What was said, or what got you from there?
I had all the voices going, you know. I mean, you hit them all in the head. Like, is this maybe this isn't for me. I just didn't have it today. If I didn't have it on bench, am I going to have it on deadlift, you know? But the thing there was a couple things. There was a couple turning points. You know, at one point you said, Nick, we're not here for your bench. We came here for your deadlift because you can deadlift the house. We came for the deadlift. A couple technical things we got to work on. Now let's close the book. That's done. Let's focus on the deadlift. That was one of the turning points for me. And from there it was just like, all right, it's time to refocus. You told me that. You're like, hey, let's refocus. It's time to focus on the deadlift. Let's go get it. Yeah,
let's go get that championship, baby. Get that state record. So Nick went from one of 3 lifts. And those of you out there that do like powerlifting, like you learned a lot this week. You think powerlifting just like, oh, they bench press, or oh, they go do the deadlift.
Yeah.
People don't if you don't warm up right. Talk about the warm-up process. Everyone's standing around like a bunch of meatheads trying to time when they may be on stage to do their lift. Tell us about that, because if you were there by yourself, I mean, this might have been difficult.
Yeah, I would have got destroyed.
You might have went right in there and just started warming up, and then you wouldn't lift for 4 hours later. I mean,
everybody says, you know, beforehand, they're like, timing is everything. Timing is everything. And I was like, what does that mean? You know? And then we get in there and it's like, oh, you realize that your day has to be regimented out so that you're at your peak when you step on the stage.
And diet too.
Man, I mean, that was a big lesson for us. Yeah.
Oh yeah, diet's a big thing too. So you go into the deadlift, and unfortunately, some guys in your class, you know, they still did very well, right? I respect all players and lifters and whatever you do in life. I always respect my teammates because teamwork makes the dream work. So your teammates pushed you. Some of them didn't do as well, which kind of helped you going into the deadlift. So you go into the deadlift. Tell us about your first attempt, because if I do, I could talk the rest of the night, because he was on all cylinders. Let's talk about your warm-up going into your first attempt.
So going into my first attempt, we had kind of got some secrets. You know, I'm not going to share all the secrets.
Yeah, let's keep our secrets with the Danny B effect.
That's right. That's right. But that was the best I'd felt. I felt like my entire body was warm. I was ready to go. And I'm just thinking, all right, I know I got this. I know that whatever happened, it happened, but I got this. And I brought that first one up to the roof.
Insane. Those of you that follow me on my Instagram or my Facebook or What's Your Next Now, right? Our podcast show. I mean, I have some videos floating around. I mean, you could find them. But Nick, you blew up your first lift. And then your second lift, now Nick didn't know what was on the bar, by the way. Yeah. So he knew what he was going to do on his first lift, but second lift, he kind of looked at me. At that point, you and I spent, I don't know, over 1,000 hours in the weight room. Yeah. We spent a lot of time together, and Nick put a lot of trust in me because, again, teamwork. So Nick trusted me. I would put weight on the bar. He knew what he could do. What happened on that second attempt?
It went up like a feather.
Like butter.
Yeah,
right?
butter.
So you probably could have done that 3 times, maybe 5, maybe with some bad form on the 5th rep. Yeah. But he could have done his second attempt more than one. He even shocked me because there was 522 pounds or 519 pounds. I forget. One of the other.
519,
519. Yeah. 519 pounds. So 519 blows up easy. And then I remember going to the judges' table, and I looked at my buddy Gary there, and he's like, well, what do you want to do for your buddy Nick Torres next? Which Gary really admired you, by the way. You're the only professional baseball player in this competition. So most of them are just a bunch of meatheads walking around.
Yeah, I was the smallest one there proportionately.
Yeah, proportion, you were the smallest guy there. Again, grit. So I tell Gary, I'm like, we're going to go for the state record in Texas right now for his age and weight class. So Gary's like, all right, let's do it. We'll chip it. It's called chipping. So the record was 551. Chip means you just put another half pound on each side, whatever it is. So we did 552 or 552 and change. And Nick smashed, and he won 2 gold medals. He won a deadlift gold medal, and he did what's called push-pull. He didn't squat in this competition, and the reason why is he is going to training camp. He's ready to play baseball, and he needs to be successful because Nick has other goals besides just lifting a lot of weight off the ground.
For sure.
Which I think you picked up a new hobby now.
Yeah.
You'll be seeing Nick in future competitions, so look out there. But so Nick gets a deadlift record, gets gold medals, and now you're going to be off this weekend. May 1st.
That's it.
You're off to Mexico. I mean, I was even asking Nick, I said, Nick, you got more in the tank, buddy. And you got more in the take on the platform and powerlifting, but more importantly, you're not done yet, man. So now you're going to Mexico, and you leave this Sunday. So, Nick, we talked about your past. We talked about what you're going to be doing. What's your next?
Well, coming up this season, I'm part of the last group of guys that's in the pre-selection for Team Mexico to go to the now 2021 Olympics. God willing, I get to play for that team. That's pretty much out of my control at this point. But.
So he just said, did you hear that right? The Olympics for Team Mexico. Nick, I'm going to be cheering you on, bro. And I know you can make the team. Because you've proven yourself your whole life so far.
Yeah.
Getting knocked down, standing back up, winning gold medals in powerlifting, right? So you could do this, man. There's more in the tank. How old are you right now?
27.
Look for Nick Torres, possibly playing on the Olympic team for Mexico. I'm sure we're going to be rooting you on here in New Braunfels, Texas. I know What's Your Next and the DB Fitness family. You're always family with me, and I know we'll be slinging some more iron around when you get back from baseball.
Absolutely.
But we talked about your background, what you're doing, what's your next. Those of you that watched episode 1, you've learned about who Coach Dan is, right? Like, who the heck's this little Irish guy running around talking about the office from, Coal Cracker Town in Northeast PA, right? But more importantly, we've talked about where we came, where we're going, what's my next, your next. What's your next?